Chapter 5: An Imp, a Lion, and a Bastard. Tyrion waited anxiously in the courtyard, standing beside his uncle Kevin and Aunt Jenna. All around him, he could see a throng of eager faces, each person buzzing with excitement for the arrival of their new lord. But for Tyrion, his heart raced for a different reason. He was simply excited to see his brother again. He hoped that now that Jaime was lord, things might be different. Perhaps he would finally be appreciated instead of scorned. But maybe that was too much to hope for. Lost in his thoughts, he suddenly heard the sound of hooves clattering against the cobblestones at the gates. There he was at last, his brother. Jaime looked just as Tyrion remembered, but there was something brighter about him this time, a spark of happiness that seemed to radiate. Tyrion noticed a young boy beside Jaime, not just speaking to him, but joking and laughing together. A pang of jealousy shot through Tyrion's heart. Who was this boy who could bring such joy to his brother? As they dismounted, Tyrion watched his uncle Geryon smile and pat the boy on the back, leading them toward him. "Casterly Rock is yours, my lord," Kevin announced in a booming voice. "Uncle, it's good to be home," Tyrion heard Jaime reply, and his heart leapt as he saw his brother moving closer. "Brother, it's good to see you," Tyrion said, a smile spreading across his face. "Tyrion," Jaime beamed, bending down to wrap his arms around him. "I've missed you, brother. I've missed you so much." Tyrion felt his heart swell in his chest. He had always been closest to Jaime, the one person who, along with their uncle Geryon, openly disapproved of their father's treatment of him. They had always gone out of their way to remind him that, small as he was as much a lion as either of them. "Aunt Jenna," Tyrion heard Jaime say, as he moved to embrace her. Jaime had always been more reserved with his emotions, and Tyrion couldn't help but wonder if the death of their father had triggered this sudden change in him. As he took in the scene, he felt a mixture of hope and uncertainty swirling within him, eager for what lay ahead. The young boy stood nervously, glancing around as Tyrion pondered who he was and why he was here. He looked northern, which made Tyrion wonder what his brother would be doing with a boy from the north. "Friends, it's good to be home," Jaime announced, his voice filled with enthusiasm. "I shall strive to be as good a lord of Casterly Rock as my father, and I vow that we shall all prosper under my stewardship." They walked inside, heading toward the Hall of Heroes to pay their respects. Jaime, Kevin, and Geryon led the way, while Aunt Jenna had been tasked by Jaime to find suitable accommodations in the family wing for his new page. "Jon Snow," Jaime said, revealing the boy's name. Tyrion felt a surge of intrigue. Having a new page was expected, but a northern bastard? That was shocking, especially rooming him in the family wing. Yet the biggest surprise was still to come. "Who is the young boy?" Uncle Kevin asked. Jon. Kevin echoed, clearly taken aback. "Yes, Jon Snow, my new page." "You took a bastard as a page?" Kevin questioned, disbelief evident in his voice. "I took a boy as my page. What side of the sheets he was born on is irrelevant. But he's a bastard." "A lord's bastard," Jaime corrected. "He's Eddard Stark's natural son." Tyrion watched as his uncle's incredulous expression mirrored his own surprise. Yet the reality of the boy's birth was only part of the issue at hand. "Jaime, you can't have a bastard as your page, no matter who his father is. You're the Lord of Casterly Rock, the Warden of the West. You're not a King's Guard anymore. You have responsibilities." "I beg to differ, Uncle. It's precisely because I'm Lord that I can do as I please. What was it Father used to say? What does a lion care about the opinions of sheep?" "Jaime, that was different. You are not your father." "Thankfully so." Kevin looked ready to explode, and Tyrion could see his other uncle rolling his eyes before stepping in. To ease the tension, "We can discuss this later. We're here to pay our respects, and we should do so with dignity," Geryon grumbled, moving to stand beside Kevin. The four of them walked in silence until they reached the grand golden doors of the Hall of Heroes. Tyrion had only been here twice since his father's body was laid to rest, and each time, his emotions were hard to grasp. He felt sadness, yes, but a larger part of him, if he was honest, felt nothing at all. "Why did you take so long to return? We had planned a grand service for when the remains arrived, expecting you would bring them with you," Kevin said, his gaze fixed on the sarcophagus with a look of reverence. "The king invited me to Winterfell. I thought it would be unwise to refuse him," Jaime replied. "He would have understood," Kevin insisted. "He's a foolish, gluttonous man. What he understands doesn't concern me, but appearances are important." Tyrion watched as Jaime placed his hand on the stone, rubbing it gently. But it was the look in Jaime's eyes that truly caught Tyrion's attention. He didn't seem sad. In fact, he almost appeared happy. No, that wasn't quite right. What was that look? Uncles, may I have a moment alone with my brother? Both uncles nodded and stepped away at Jamie's request. Tyrion stood there, watching them leave, until Jamie approached and knelt down, pulling him into a tight embrace. Tears began to well up in Tyrion's eyes. This was all he had ever wanted, a family that loved him. They held on to each other for several minutes before Jamie finally released him. Come, little brother. We have much to discuss. Do we? Tyrion asked, somewhat taken aback. Of course. Your new role, for one. My new role? Yes, as the Castellan of Casterly Rock. What? But Uncle Kevin will have his own important duties. But who better to serve as my Castellan than the cleverest brother a man could ever hope to have? Jamie sighed as they. Leaving his solar felt strange, especially since it had been the place where his father had spent most of his life. Tywin would spend hours here, engaged in activities that were now shrouded in darkness for Jamie. Was it here that he had orchestrated the reigns of Castamere? Was this the very room where he had penned the orders to kill Elia and her children? The thought made Jamie's stomach churn. As he looked around, the room began to feel suffocating. The lion sculptures, the ornate tableaus, the glimmering gold, all of it threatened to overwhelm him. He needed to escape, to clear his mind, and he knew just how to do it. He walked down the hallway toward Jon's room. Jamie had specifically requested that Jon be given the best available accommodations in the family wing, and he was pleased to see that his wishes had been honored. As he entered, he found Jon standing there, his expression one of bewilderment as he took in his surroundings. After a moment, Jamie cleared his throat to announce his presence. And my lord, this is a mistake, right? No, Jon, no mistake. These are your rooms for as long as you're staying here. But they can't be. This has to be a mistake. Jamie couldn't help but laugh at the boy's confusion. It was amusing to see a king think an above-average room was more than he deserved. However, the laughter faded quickly as he remembered the reason behind this arrangement. That damn trout. Trust me, Jon, these rooms aren't even that special. Besides, you're my page now, and I need you close to my own rooms. These were the only ones available. He grimaced as he spoke, knowing it wasn't the whole truth, but it was the best he could offer for now. Now, how about we have a little spar before dinner? Jon's face lit up at the suggestion, and together they made their way to the training area. They were bound to attract a crowd, eager to see the boy Jamie had chosen to mentor and to gauge his worthiness. Uncle Jerian would likely show up, ready to tease as always, but for now, the thought of sparring brought a welcome distraction. He was an honest man, and Jamie understood that if Jon's parentage was the only thing clouding Jerian's judgment, he would have questioned him. Move, Jon. Quicker than that. To the side, now back again. Again. That's it, that's the way. Jamie beamed at him as Jon followed his directions. The lad's got some talent, I'll give you that, Jerian remarked, watching Jon spar with one of the older boys. Just then, Jon delivered a stunning riposte that caught the older boy off guard, forcing him to yield within seconds. A lot of talent, Jerian added. Jon had sparred for nearly 2 hours, almost the entire time with Jamie. He was surprised by how many people had gathered to watch, but then he realized they were eager to see their lord. Some were even focused on him. Pushing through his fatigue, he strained to listen to Jamie's ongoing instructions. When it was time for him to spar against some of the recruits, he felt nervous, but Jamie simply nodded and placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Show them, Jon. Show them who you'll be, Jamie encouraged. And he did. Jon bested most of them, with only a few too strong or too experienced managing to take him down. He bore the bumps and bruises from the hits he had taken, but seeing the pride on Jamie's face made the pain feel a little less significant. For the first time in a long while, Jon felt genuinely happy. The journey and the places he had seen were incredible, but nothing compared to the rock itself. The castle, carved from the mountain, soared high above, stretching further than Jon could see. To reach the main castle, they had to take a lift, which was an adventure in itself. As if that weren't enough to excite his imagination, the sounds echoing through the cliffs below were astonishing. Thunderous noises that, in Jon's fervent imagination, resembled lions or even dragons roaring. Hear me roar, he thought, settling in for the night. The people he had met were friendly, if not a bit overwhelming, but it all added to the magic of this new place. Though a little suspicious, Kevin and Jenna were polite, but hardly paid him any attention. Jerian, on the other hand, was funny and seemed to take nothing seriously. He hadn't spent much time with Tyrion yet, but he was looking forward to it. Jamie's stories about his little brother had sparked his curiosity, but as always, it was Jamie he was most eager to spend time with. Their sparring session had been enjoyable. He had tried out some of the techniques Jamie had taught him, and a couple of them had worked particularly well against the other boys he had sparred with. Tyrion sat at the table beside Jamie, both of them laughing and reminiscing about old times. The night was progressing splendidly when he decided to voice the question that had been on his mind all day. Why was Ned Stark's bastard serving as Jamie's squire, or page, or whatever the title was? So brother, why the hell did you choose a northern bastard to be your page? Tyrion asked, immediately noticing the grimace on Jamie's face at the word bastard. Jon's a very talented lad, Jamie replied defensively. Still a bastard though. Tyrion couldn't resist pushing back. He wanted to see if he could get Jamie to open up. What he is doesn't matter. It's who he is that counts, Jamie shot back. Ah, you mean because he's a Stark bastard, Tyrion teased. No, I mean because he has the potential to be a great man. Potential that some would rather let wither under the burden of being a bastard. Tyrion opened his mouth to respond, but caught the look on Jamie's face and thought better of it. He realized he had unintentionally provoked his brother by using the term bastard. And while he was curious about the reason behind Jamie's protectiveness, he didn't want to risk annoying him. After all, he had only just gotten Jamie back. You really think that highly of the lad? Tyrion asked, hoping to steer the conversation back to safer waters. I do, brother, Jamie replied. Then I shall endeavor to be his friend, Tyrion said, returning Jamie's smile. He figured he would eventually uncover the truth, and having an actual friend in Jon could be a nice change. It was a win-win for him, especially since it made his brother happy, something Tyrion believed was worth any price. As he entered the hall to break his fast, he grabbed a plate of burnt bacon and a mug of hot mulled wine, then made his way to the table where his uncle Jerian was currently regaling Jon with one of his grand tales. Judging by the look on Jon's face, he was thoroughly enjoying it. After all, both he and Jamie had reacted the same way whenever Jerian told a story. Ah, finally decided to grace us with your presence, have you? His uncle called out as Tyrion took a seat. Why, uncle, you know better than anyone that I'm not a morning person. Allow me to introduce young Master Snow to you. Jon Snow, my lord, Jon said, extending his hand. Tyrion, just Tyrion, he replied with a smile, aiming to make the boy feel at ease. It worked. Jon returned his smile, albeit shyly. And how are you finding the rock, Jon? Tyrion asked. It's different. I've never seen a castle built into a mountain before, and the sounds, they're amazing. Jon exclaimed enthusiastically. Then perhaps, after we break our fast, I could show you around, Tyrion suggested. Thank you, my lord. Tyrion, Jon. Just Tyrion. Okay, Tyrion, Jon said with a grin. After they finished their meal, Jerian left to visit Joy, and Tyrion led Jon on a tour of the rock. He showed him the stables that his father had been so proud of, the armory that piqued Jon's interest, and the maester's quarters, which Jon remarked were larger than Lewin's at Winterfell. They strolled along the corridors to the Golden Gallery, where the gilded walls and golden ornaments left Jon's mouth agape and all. Once they had explored most of the upper levels, Tyrion took Jon down to the vaults, showing him where they once kept actual lions, earning a smile from the boy. Finally, he brought Jon to the stone garden, the rock's godswood. I didn't think you'd have a weirwood tree here, Jon said, his eyes wide with wonder. Here, Jon said, his delight evident on his face, even though the tree was small compared to the one in Winterfell. My father always refused to let anyone tear it down, even though we follow the seven. I'm sorry for your loss, Tyrion replied. It's no matter, Tyrion said, brushing it off. After their tour, Tyrion and Jon made their way back to the training area. Tyrion decided to stay and watch as Jon sparred with Jerian. He was pleasantly surprised by Jon's skill. Though he was small and young, there was no denying his talent. Tyrion briefly wondered if this was why Jamie had taken him under his wing, but he quickly dismissed the thought. There was something more to the boy, something beneath the surface that intrigued him. Regardless, he was glad to spend time with Jon. The truth was, he found himself genuinely liking the boy.